about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Now looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good morning, everyone. It's Jim here at Tutor HQ. Welcome to our 25th live A-Level Economics Revision Blast. Joined today by Jon in the middle, Isobel on the left, to guide us through 30 minutes of fast-paced, varied revision on contestable markets. That's our topic. First time we've done that topic for economics. So if you're joining us live, and I can see on the live chat, lots and lots of students are with us live, you will be under a little bit of time pressure to respond to the activities and questions. If you're watching on catch-up, of course, you can pause the video at any stage to give yourself a bit more time. Jon, do you want to give us a flavour for what we're covering? Because then we can crack on with what will be another great session.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. Morning, Jim. Morning to everybody tuning in live on this glorious Monday morning, and also welcome to anybody watching on catch up on replay. Yeah, we've got 30 minutes of looking at contestable markets, as Jim says. We've not covered it all by itself before. We've done one or two questions as part of other subjects, but yes. 30 minutes on contestable markets, looking at some of the key phrases, looking at some of the conditions that must exist for contestable markets to be in place. And we'll try and do a little bit of analysis towards the end and a little bit of application as well. So those are the sort of things we're going to be covering. As always, we have the chat window available to those of you who are watching live. Please, please, please participate if you can, and if you know the answers to the questions. It's always great to see the your answers. Some of them are going to require you to maybe type in a few words, and others just a letter or two. So that's how this one works. So I think we're ready, Jim, if we want to get started.
Let's go for it.
Here we go then. I'm going to give you just 60 seconds for this one. Just 60 seconds to give me three conditions for a market to be considered contestable. So I'm looking at you to put into the chat window if you can put one in at a time or have a go at all three in one go. The conditions that must exist for a market to be considered contestable. Let's start our timer. Hopefully there's a little bit of music in the background. There is a little bit of music. I said 60 seconds. I've cut that down to 30 seconds in one go to try and make this a little bit more tough for you all. So it's only 30 seconds, not 60 seconds, to give me as many conditions of contestability as possible. Straight away, we've got one in there from Mine. Low barriers to entry. Low sunk costs comes from Ed as well. Thank you. Low barriers of entry is coming in as well. Okay, we're nearly there. What else just before it runs out? Our timer has run out. Three conditions, mainly talking about barriers to entry and low cost. Let's have a look at our suggested answers, please, Jim. Indeed, we have got three for you there. We've got the number three, like I said, no significant entry or exit costs, those sunk costs, which we'll come back to when we talk about some of the key phrases a little bit later on. Very little brand loyalty, so we want people to be keen to go for any new firms that come into the market and not stick to the ones that are already there. And there needs to be a large pool of possible competitors. Remember, that's the key thing about a contestable market, that the potential for competition is there, even if it isn't there already. So it's the potential for competition. You could have had high churn rate as well. Some students have not heard of that phrase before. Churn rate, if you think about how you calculate it, let's say you've got 100 customers at the beginning of the month and you've got 95 customers at the end of the month, you've got a churn rate of about 5% there. So the higher that number, the more likely your market is to be contestable. Right, we'll have a look at some altered vowels with Isobel next.
I love altered vowels. This is my absolute favorite. So basically, we've taken some phrases about contestable markets, and particularly these are policies that make markets more contestable. We've taken those phrases, we've taken all the vowels out, we've switched them for different vowels and then put them back in. So there are vowels there, but the vowels you see on the screen won't be the right vowels. Now, it's due to you law that I pronounce the words as they come up. So wish me luck with that. Okay, so the first one is Dorogolitoin if in ondostry. Dorogolotion if in ondostry. What do we think? What do we think? So again, there are vowels in this. They aren't the right vowels. If you switch them, what do you get? Oh, we've got mine, Mine. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sorry. Deregulation of an industry. Straight in there. Okie dokie. Let's have a look at the next one. Well done. Okay, so the next one. Taug rolos and produttori prakang. Taug rolos. Well, rolos. I like rolos. Rolos and produttori prakang. What do we think? So these phrases are all policies to make markets more contestable. We've taken the vowels, we've switched them for other vowels, and then put them back in. So you've got to work out what were the phrases that we started with. So if you switch the vowels, change them up a bit, what do you think that you might come up with? Oh, and straight off it again, tough rules on predatory pricing. That is indeed correct. You've got two in a row there. Okay. And then I think we've got more. So let's have a look at the next one. Oh, crikey. This one looks a bit Welsh, doesn't it? Inkerregeng Natinial Dready. Wow. Okay. What do we think? What do we think that one is? So I try that one again. Inkerregeng Natinial Dready. So it's a policy to make markets more contestable. And wherever you see a vowel, it's the wrong vowel. So swap it for another vowel. What are you going to get? This one's really, really tough.
It is tough, this one, Isobel.
Maybe start at the end and then kind of work your way backwards. Oh, and three in a row there. So we've got encouraging international trade. That is, in fact, right. Because if you encourage more international trade, there's more threat of competition. Okie dokie. I'm going to hand back to Jon now.
This is the 60-second challenge. Apologies, the first one was only 30 seconds. This is 60-second challenge. Right, you're going to see a list. I'm going to give you 5 key phrases on the left hand of the screen and 5 definitions on the right hand side of the screen, but the definitions have been mixed up. So I need you to correspond the correct definition with the correct key phrase. The key phrases have letters at the beginning of them. The definitions have numbers. So on the chat screen, I need you to list a letter with a number. So 60 seconds to do that for these 5 here. Let's start our clock going and see how many of these 5 you can get correct. Remember, I'm looking for you to put in the letter against the number. We start in the clock, please, Jim. Let's get our 60 seconds going. A little bit of tense music just to get your brains concentrating and thinking. Can you match the letter on the left-hand side with the definition on the right-hand side? So if you thought hit and run competition was an example that includes patent protection, you would go A2. Let's have a look then. What have we got coming through? People starting to put their entries in, thank you. Concentrating on barriers to entry in this set of key phrases. Do you know your difference in different types? Valentin has come in with their suggested answers. Ed's going with a suggestion or 2 as well. Moment more just to see if we can get a few others in there. Thank you very much. Thanks for your suggestions. Right, let's have a look at the correct answers if we can, please, Jim. Let's swap those across. So, key phrases, really important if you're going to be giving a long answer when it comes to anything about contestable markets, that you've got some thoughts about how to actually define some of the things that you're going to talk about. Hit and run competition, I've already sort of mentioned it a little bit towards the beginning of this session, that idea that a business will spot the potential for supernormal profits, join the market and then leave once those profits are starting to fall away. Sunk costs, we mentioned that one as well. Costs that can't be recovered if a business decides to leave an industry. They are sunk, they are lost. And then we've got our 3 different types of barriers of entry. Now, or every single economic student will know what a barrier of entry is, but we've got some different types there, just in case you've not heard of these before. So innocent barriers of entry are those where firms they just have an advantage because they've already got lower unit costs. Legal barriers include things like patents, trademarks and copyrights, and then strategic barriers are when existing businesses discourage potential entrants from coming in, use of advertising or other methods like that. So 60-second challenge. Well done to those of you who got through those. Some great answers in the chat window. Over to Isobel for some multi-choice questions, Isobel.
Thank you very much. So the first one, which is likely to lead to an increase in the contestability of a market? So you just put your answer in A, B, C or D. Which one do you think is likely to lead to an increase in the contestability of a market? Slightly easier one to start us off here, especially if you've been listening in that last section. Explain some of the terms that you're going to hear in this one. What do we think? So Valentin straight off there with A. Scott Ollie has gone for C. Mine's gone for A. Ed's gone for A. Let's just take a couple more. Mason's gone for A. Okay, so the general consensus is that it's A. Should we have a look at the answer? It is indeed A. And as John just said, sunk costs are those irretrievable costs that you can't get back if you shut down. That's a barrier to entry because knowing that you'll lose money if you leave the market for whatever reason makes it riskier to enter it in the first place. Therefore, if you have lower sunk costs, that's going to make it more contestable. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. Okay, the loyalty consumers have for brands such as Adidas or Adidas, depending on how you pronounce it, and Nike or Nike, make this industry highly contestable, one with high sunk costs, horizontally integrated, or perfectly competitive. So have a think about this. Which one do you think is the answer here? So the loyalty that consumers have for those sports brands, what does that do to the industry? Abdullah's gone for A. Valentin's gone for A. No, Valentin's gone for B. Sorry, my mistake. Any more there? Ollie Scott. Ollie's gone for C. So we've got A, B, and C so far. Anyone for D? Does anyone think it's D? Ed's gone for B. So that's 2 on B now. And mine's gone for B. Okie dokie. Let's have a look at this one then. It is indeed. And I think it is indeed B. I think a process of elimination works well for this one. It's not contestable. It's going to be quite difficult for you to come in and challenge Adidas or Nike. If you set up your own sports brand, that's going to be quite difficult for you. It's not horizontally integrated. They haven't merged. One doesn't own the other. It can't be perfectly competitive because there's a lot of brand loyalty in the market. So we know that it's not homogenous. Therefore, almost by elimination, it's going to be B, one with high sunk costs. Okie dokie, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, which measure would lead to greater contestability in the bus transport market? So which one's going to make it more contestable? Increasing the cost of licenses to operate, encouraging mergers between those bus companies, providing better information on the benefits of bus transport, or fair access for all operators to bus stations. Which one is going to make it more contestable? A, B, C, or D? Let's have some answers. It is indeed an epic revision document. Oh, we've got a C. We've got another C. Any advances on C? Is anyone going to step out from the crowd and say something else? Oh, Ed's gone D. Mason's gone D. We've got another C from Valentin. Jeremy's gone E, which is slightly peculiar, as there is no E. Spuddy's gone D. Okay, so we've got a couple of Bs, couple of Cs, couple of Ds, but I think we're mainly here opting for D, perhaps. Let's have a look. It was D. And that's because if all bus operators can get into the bus stations, then it makes it easier for new entrants. Remember that they don't actually need to enter the market. It just means that they could potentially enter the market. So in contestability, it doesn't actually matter how many firms there are. It's just that there could potentially be more firms. Okay, and let's have a look at the last multiple choice question today. Okay, quite a long one here. Taxi businesses operating in a medium-sized town are in a contestable local market. They're productively efficient. There is strong price competition between them already. In order to gain further market share, which one of the following is likely to be the best strategy for the existing taxi business? So we're going for the best strategy. Now, the information that you've been given is important. It could be a red herring, perhaps, but I think it's more likely to be really important information that's going to change how you think about this question. Spuddy's gone D. Ollie Scott Ollie's gone B. Valentin's gone B. Okay, any more advances on B so far? What do you think? Mason's gone B. Let's just take one more. What do we think? What are we thinking here? Which one's going to be the best strategy? Okay, so let's have a look at the answers then. And it was, in fact, again, B. So again, the process of elimination works here. You can't cut the costs, as it says in A, because it says they're already productively efficient. So they probably don't have a long way to go in terms of cutting costs. In terms of C, they probably have price competition already because it says in the question. And therefore, price competition probably isn't the best idea because it's already strong. But customer service is a great form of non-price competition. So that'd be a really good one to go with there. So that one's B. Okie dokie. Well done. We're going to ramp it up a little bit now with the bubble quiz. So this time, instead of just one answer being correct, there could be 1, 2, 3, or 4 answers correct, or there could be no answers correct. So your job is to work out which answer or answers are correct and then type them into the box. If you don't think any are correct, you can put a 0 into the box. Okay, so the first question. We're going to be speeding it up a little bit now. So which of these are holders of state-awarded franchises? Which of these are holders of state-awarded franchises? So it could be any of them, it could be multiple, or it could be 0. So put the letters that you think are right into the chat. Remember, it could be more than one answer, or it could be 0 answers. So Ollie Scott Ollie's gone 3. Can you tell us which 3 you think are correct? Oh, A, C, and D, he said. Okay, any advances on A, C, and D? We've got a C here. Any more that we think are correct? Speeding it up, nice and quick, please. And we've got a C and an A. Let's have a look at the answers. Let's have a look at the answers here. So it was, in fact, B and D. So a franchise is maybe a slightly different usage that you might use it in business, for example. It's where the state gives a company in the private sector some sort of authority to do something. So Camelot, who run the National Lottery, they have a license to conduct lotteries because betting is regulated. We've got Govia Thameslink. They have a license to run rail services in various sectors. Actually, Govia Thameslink Railway is a really interesting example if you're looking at mergers too. So that'd be a particularly good one to have in your revision notes. On the other hand, Sodexo has lots of government contracts in loads of areas. They provide free school meals in some areas, or some COVID tests. They do loads of stuff, but they're not a franchise. They just have contracts. And the BBC has quite a special situation. It's a public corporation, so they have a special authority. Okie dokie, let's have a look at the next one. Which of these are likely to be contestable markets in the UK? Which of these are most likely to be contestable markets in the UK? Really quick on this one. Go through each one. Isn't contestable? If it is, type it in. If you don't think any of them are contestable, put a 0. Let's see what answers we can get. Okay. What do you think? Which ones do you think are contestable? Online room sharing, private tutoring, selling your books, or fast food markets? Mason's gone A and D. Let's have a look. What do you think? And they are, in fact, all true in this case. They are all contestable markets. They all have fairly low barriers to entry that make it easier to come into the market, and also barriers to exit as well. So they have fairly low barriers to exit, so it's easy to come in and out of the market. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Question 3. So which of these are considered examples of sunk costs? Sunk costs. Now, remember that definition of sunk costs? Costs which are irretrievable if the business leaves the market. You can't get them back. So things like perhaps advertising might be an example of a sunk cost that isn't here, because if you've advertised your business and the business shuts down, you can't really sell that advertising on very easily. So we've got A, B, C, D, E. Which ones do you think are correct here? We've got an A and a D, a B and a C. So we've got everything so far. What do you think? C, another one for C. So that's 2 people saying C so far. B, C. Let's just take a couple more answers. A and C. So real variety here. We're not really agreeing. Let's have a look. Yeah, so it's A, B, and C. They're all things that you can't get back if you leave the market, whereas the market downturn isn't really a cost in the same way that the other ones are. Okie dokie, I'm going to pass over to John for the suitcase scanner.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So the idea with Suitcase Scanner then is I'm going to show you a diagram. Currently the diagram is hidden inside my suitcase, and I'm going to put a scanner over the suitcase, and you'll see little bits of the diagram piece by piece. Now, the point I always make with this activity is this: when it comes to your own diagrams, when you are drawing diagrams as part of your extended answers, it's important that you make them dynamic and show the examiner, or show whoever's marking your work, that there's a purpose and a point behind the diagram. The diagram isn't just a picture, it's illustrating something. So my scanner is going to roll over the suitcase. You're going to see it piece by piece. What I want in the chat window is somebody to tell me what is happening in this diagram. Not what the curves are, but what is happening in this diagram. Right. It'll go past really, really quickly. It'll go across once and then back again. So you haven't got very much time to actually work out what it is. Let's roll our scanner now, please, Jim. Here we go. Very quickly have a look what's going on in this diagram. I don't need to know what the diagram's curves are particularly. I want to know what's going on. Right, what was in my hidden diagram? Let's see if anybody had enough time to spot what was going on there. Let's see if anybody in the chat window can tell me what they think is going on there? Ollie Scott Ollie, we don't know which way around your name is, and you don't have an idea with this one. We'll show you the answer in a second, of course. Moné's gone with Monopoly. Actually, I can understand why you might have gone with Monopoly in terms of some of the shapes of the curves, but that's not the answer, Moné. So anybody else going to give us a suggestion? What was happening? What was being illustrated on that curves? Right, Ed has gone with firms are gaining normal profits. Thank you, Ed. The first answer, which is the closest to what I asked an answer, you're absolutely right. How do you know that they're gaining normal profits, though, Ed? If you've got a moment or two to type into the window again, how do you know that they were gaining normal profits and not super normal profits? Moné's gone with monopolistic competition while we're waiting for Ed to have a think. What are we looking for? Let's put people out of their misery, Jim. Let's show them that diagram. Ed was the closest here. Yes, we are making normal profits here. It is at the position where average costs equals average revenues, the minimum price that a contestable firm might implement. Now, of course, contestable firms, generally there won't be many firms in the market, so they remain price makers as the market is at the moment, but they're constantly aware of the threat of competition. So if they just went with the profit maximization point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, prices would be higher than the level that's on the diagram here, and it may encourage more firms into the market, and also it may mean that they lose some customers. So a contestable market's not likely necessarily to choose profit maximization as their price. They're likely to choose something slightly lower, and the minimum price that they can go with is that one that's on the screen right now, where average cost equals average revenue. Any lower than that, then they would actually be starting to make a loss and therefore potentially go out of business. That is the minimum price, and they can make normal profits, those profits which are the basic profits that need to be made by a firm in order for them to continue. Well done to those of you who had a go at that one. That was a little bit tough, that one. Let's have a move on to our next activity then. Chains of analysis. So this time I've got 5 sentences for you, and they've been mixed up a little bit, and what I want you to do is rearrange them so that they become a paragraph that you could call a chain of analysis. Now, the very first one, the one at the top, the one that's got the red border around, that is the first phrase. So this paragraph starts with the phrase, supernormal profits act as an incentive for other firms to enter the market. The other 4 have been mixed up. So what I would like you to do is have a go at rearranging those 4 so that we get a chain of analysis. So in the chat window, I just need you to put the numbers of each of the phrases. Obviously, I don't need you to type it out. If you are doing this, if you're watching this on replay, might be a good point to pause the video here and spend a little bit of time on this. Once we've rearranged it, we're going to have a really nice chain of analysis. So have a look at this and have a think. How would you rearrange 1, 2, 3, and 4 so that they form a logical chain of analysis? I'll wait a few moments, see if we get some responses on the chat window. I'll make a couple of points about this chain of analysis once we've got it finished. Let's just see if anybody comes back with a suggestion. I know there's a lot of reading to be done before you can come up with an answer. Let's have a look. What have we got? Perhaps people find this one a little bit tougher. Any suggestions from anyone? Conscious of the time that we've got left. I think what we'll do here, Jim, is I think we'll just show everybody what the suggested chain of analysis is here. Great paragraph for you here once we've rearranged it into the correct one. Sorry, Moné, just as we're getting there, you've thrown your answers. You've gone with 2, 3, 1, and 4. And thank you for your suggestions. Here we go. Here is our great chain of analysis. What I really like about this, look at the connective phrases that we've got in this one. As a consequence, as a result. And the other thing that's really good about this one is the number of really good economics key phrases that have been put in here. Hit and run competition, monopoly, allocatively efficient. So supernormal profits act as an incentive for other firms to enter the market. As a consequence, there's our first connective. Existing firms are vulnerable to hit and run competition from smaller disruptive businesses. Another great phrase for you, a disruptive business, just like Tutor2You, challenging the monopoly position. As a result, the threat of entry is as important as actual competition. That's what we mean about contestability, isn't it? Which means that the more contestable a market is, the more likely the firm is to be allocatively efficient. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. A few more people have put their suggestions in as I'm going through them as well. Wonderful, wonderful. I think that leaves us with one more activity to go. Yes, we're on to our favourite application of information, application of some real world examples right at the end of our session today. I think Isobel and Jim are going to join us as well for this little activity. Are you there, Jim?
Yeah, I'm here. Are we taking the students on, as always?
We are, yes, as always. So the expert minds of who we've got here in the studio, Isobel and Jim, against the might of our fantastic economics students. Right, so what we've got here are 5 firms who are all listed in the top 10 brands for loyalty in something called the Sodexo Brand Loyalty Index. Funnily enough, we've already mentioned Sodexo as a firm. They've compiled this brand loyalty index based upon some really extensive research. So it's sort of the opposite of contestability we're going with here, really. What we're talking about is those markets where there are huge levels of brand loyalty and therefore contestability doesn't really exist. And our first firm is Heinz, the manufacturer of, what is it, 57 varieties? I can never remember the number. Is it 157? I can never
heard of
remember.
it.
It's 57. It's 57.
Is it 57? So in our top 10, they are 5th. Okay, so Heinz are 5th, right in the middle of our table. What's our first one then? Marmite.
Ooh.
You're either going to love or hate the answer that Jim's going to give you here. What do you think, Jim? What about Marmite? Do you think that's higher or lower than Heinz?
I was going to wait for Isabel's answer, and I might just wait to see what else has been put on the chat window. I don't know. I'm a big fan. By the way, I bought a whole year's supply of Marmite last week, John.
How much was that then? How many of those did you have?
1 jar.
Oh, just 1 jar, yes. Another classic.
Marmite fans love it, don't they? So I think I'm going to go.
do,
I think they'll be high up the list. I think they'll be quite high.
Right. Okay. What about you then, Isobel? Do you agree with Jim?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if it was number 1 or number 2.
Could be.
I think if you're a Marmite lover, there's no alternative for you. So I reckon.
And I suppose it's a really good point about brand loyalty, isn't it? It isn't about the people who don't like it. It's about how much the people who do like it go for. Just have a look in on the chat, see what's coming in here. Let's have a look at the answer then. Jim and Isobel, are you correct? Is it higher than 5th? It is. It's 3rd. So not 1st or 2nd, Isobel, but as you're absolutely right, it is higher. Right, what's our next firm then?
So did you know, John, that Marmite appeared in the 2019 economic exams? It was in an extract.
Dear me. Jim, how am I supposed to continue after that? That
With
was
Sky
fantastic.
TV.
With Sky TV. Now, what do we know about Sky TV? I don't know how many of our viewers are users of Sky TV. Incredibly popular for most of this century, technologically way ahead of a lot of their competitors until relatively recently. And we know that a few of the other outlets have come along, Virgin Media and a few of the others, BT. What do we think, Isobel? We'll go with Isobel first this time. 3rd's quite high, isn't it? So do you think Sky are 1st or 2nd on our list?
I don't think so, and especially not recently. I think the rise of on-demand might have kind of changed the market there quite a bit. I think people are getting less loyal to Sky, so I'm going to go lower.
You're going to go lower. Now, Jim, just before you give me your answer, I was determined at some point to put one of these in where 2 answers are exactly the same. So you've actually got a choice. Do you think it is 1st or 2nd lower, or do you think it's the same? Could it be joint 3rd?
I'm looking at the live chat from the students, and particularly Mina's gone lower, so I agree with that. I think it'll be lower.
Okay, let's have a look. It is lower than Heinz as well. So now then, Dyson, James Dyson, owner, has been in the news quite a bit recently, hasn't he? Where's he live now? Singapore, or is he back in Britain? Nobody knows. Dyson's vacuum cleaners. What do we think, Jim?
Oh, we had a Dyson, but now it's just on the wall gathering dust. I think it's gonna.
People, I didn't set these up deliberately.
I think it's gonna be higher. I think Dyson lovers love them, don't they? So I think I'll go higher, but I'm happy to be persuaded by Isobel or Ed or Mina in the chat.
All that.
No, I'm a Dyson lover too. So I they're just brilliant. I'm gonna go higher, but I don't know if I'm using my personal opinion of the brand a little bit too much here.
Yeah.
You got to think about the nation as a whole, who was in,
Yes.
who was in the questionnaire.
Mason
but I'm still gonna
said
go higher.
lower. I'm sticking with you, Isabel. I agree, higher. Yeah.
And if you're gaming this activity, of course, we know it's not third or fifth. That leaves us with first, second, or fourth. So that was really what you're thinking about. Let's put you out of your misery, guys. What is the answer here? But it's fourth. There you go. It is very popular. There you go. So people do like their Dysons, don't they? And they go back when they stop working after 18 months. That leaves us with Samsung. I've not put Apple in here deliberately. Samsung, is that higher or lower than Dyson? People love their Dysons. Do they love their Samsungs? Now, of course, Samsungs make different products, don't they? They make phones, but we know they make other types of tech, including TVs and so on. So it's not just phones with Samsung. What do you think, Isabel?
Right. Well, I'm looking at the numbers here, and if it's the only options we've got left are first, second, and then seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th by the looks of it. I think that's right.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's first or second, but I don't think it's seventh or eighth either. So I'm not really sure. I'm gonna go lower. I don't think it's one or two.
Go lower. Okay. I think one or two people on the chat are going low as well. What do you think, Jim? Last one.
Got to be in the top two. Has to be. Apple and Samsung have to be the top two. So I'm going to go higher.
You're confident?
Yeah.
Right. Are you confident? Well, let's have a look then.
He was right. He was right.
First, top of the list, and Apple second, by the way. Just so you're aware that you're right. Those two are the two brands that have the most amount of loyalty in the UK. There
Fantastic.
we go. Higher or
Great
lower?
Yeah. Love it.
Brilliant.
Oh, fantastic. Well, and I beat Isabel as well, which is icing on the cake.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't have any Samsung jokes, unfortunately, but there we go. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Thanks
Great
for that,
activity.
then.
Yeah, well, fantastic. As always, really enjoyed that. Really useful whistle-stop tour of some key concepts in contestable markets. So if you found that helpful, if you're watching live and or on replay, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and that'll help YouTube suggest this session to other A-level economics students, either for this summer or even for the months and years ahead. Who knows? Brilliant stuff. Did you enjoy that, Isabel? Good fun?
Oh, that was great. It was really jam-packed, some really hard stuff within a really short space of time. So excellent, very effective revision there. Very efficient.
And of course, if you're at Heathrow Airport and you're on suitcase scanning, look out for that normal profits diagram, which I suspect is the kind of thing you'd find in John's suitcase as he's packing his bag on his way to his summer holidays. Fantastic stuff. Okay, we'll call it a day there at the end of this session. It's our 25th live session. We are back again tomorrow afternoon if you're watching live for globalization, which should be another cracker. And hopefully you're doing well with your revision for your economics assessments. We wish you all the best with those if you've got some coming up this week or next. So from Isabel, John, and I, superb stuff. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.